2,000 years ago, and you go, God damn, those guys had it right. And why are we so behind 2,000 years later? Why haven't? But I think it's cyclical. I think that, you know, certainly in America, this post-war generation was all about strength and not showing weakness and winning and that works to a certain degree. But I think a more vulnerability, a more getting your arms around your successes and your failures really makes for a better partner, a better dad, a better son.
That this is the most difficult film that you've ever worked on. Why?
It is the most delicate film because it's just so delicate. To my surprise, when we were putting this together, you know, we set out to make a very sincere film. I mean, a real bare bones, bare, raw kind of honesty. And the danger in that is that in sincerity, it can become too earnest and tip the scales of the film. And it was very interesting to see how one piece of voiceover or holding on a take for too long could suddenly make it just too earnest. And then it worked conversely the other way. And we're talking about seconds. And if we got out too early, it would be flat and the emotion wasn't there.
Thanks for joining us for our weekly film show. We're starting with an out-of-this-world experience with Brad Pitt.
Space is full of awe and wonder.
This movie, it seemed really physical.
First of all, I really appreciate a stuntman. It is a bit of a Peter Pan production, and not necessarily easy to make it look graceful when you're hanging from wires.
Ad Astra stars Brad Pitt as astronaut Roy McBride on a daring mission to find his father, played by Tommy Lee Jones.
We believe your father is still alive. He threatens the stability of our entire solar system.
Tommy Lee can just, I don't know how he does it. He makes lines work that I don't know how he does it. I really don't.
Writer and director James Gray wanted the film to be the most realistic depiction of space ever seen.
James and I both had an age where, you know, we probably lived more than we have left. Mm-hmm. And you start thinking about impermanence, you start thinking of your own personal values. I'm feeling good, ready to do my job to the best of my abilities. My style is I'm interjecting some point of view of mine usually.
Which point of view were you interjecting here?
Well,
I'm listening to you.
Yeah, you are too, and you're calling me out on it too.
In a good way.
No, it's fair, it's all fair. It's really coming to terms with knowing yourself, a full acceptance of yourself instead of living with regrets or the grief we carry, the loneliness we carry.
And so you brought an authenticity to the role that perhaps you couldn't have done if you weren't being open with yourself in real life.
Yes, I think that's bang on. And it is the universal human experience.
Today, Brad Pitt is putting peace ahead of the pressure following his divorce from Angelina Jolie, with whom he has 6 children. And after a year and a half in Alcoholics Anonymous, he says he's now sober. He's even more in demand than ever with 2 major performances in 2019.
Don't you forget it.
Ad Astra means to the stars. I think it's through hardship to the stars.
Is the hardship worth it?
Yeah. There's no avoiding it, so you better buckle up.
I'm ready.
Ad Astra is set in a not-so-distant future that isn't beyond the realm of possibility.
astronaut Roy McBride has tamped down his feelings to an absolutely ridiculous degree, which means we see his wife walk out on him early on. His pulse is low. He never gets flustered. Many American movies are about the importance of work, how crucial it is to work for a living, and how you should do what the boss says, except when you're an anti-hero who doesn't do what anybody says. Roy navigates literally both inner and outer space. He believed his father was dead. The government tells him his dad is out there somewhere and may have gone rogue in a way that threatens not only Earth, but the whole solar system. I hate when that happens. I like the clipped military language, the need to know doling out of information, and the fact that he goes to the edge of the universe. There's no souvenir stand there, but there is something worth discovering.
What he was after with this one was really intriguing for me, just as a man, as a dad, as a son, and off we went. What we were really digging at, without labeling it so much, was this definition of masculinity. Having grown up in an era where we're taught to be strong, not show weakness, don't be disrespected, and so on and so forth, that there's a certain value in that as far as entering in the world and holding your own, but there's also a barrier that's created with this this kind of embracing of the self, because you're denying to a sense those pains or those I guess the things you feel shame, whether real or imagined, the regrets in one's life, it's denied in a sense. And so looking back again, I think we were asking the question, is there a better definition for us? Is actually being more open provide you with a better relationship with your loved ones, with your parents, with your kids, and with yourself. And at the end of the day, that's certainly what we were after.
And I feel like you would really feel for Brad Pitt in that instance. So how does the movie sort of examine that father-son relationship?
This movie is performing very well, but I did find that particular relationship kind of problematic. It's shot like it's a 1950s sci-fi, but it's set far in the future where the moon is colonized. And Tommy Lee Jones's character, we only see him through video and from the past.
Either we are not alone in the universe, meaning aliens, or we are completely and utterly alone. And either outcome is equally terrifying. That was a really interesting concept.
We live in a world filled with falsehoods. I mean, marketing, advertising, politics are filled with all sorts of falsehoods. It will lead us to a conclusion sometimes that there is no such thing as truth. And that's what happens sometimes, is we want to fit into any kind of group or sector so badly that when things come up that we don't agree with or we know are incorrect, we just hold our silence and we don't say anything. I'll never forget sitting next to a young man on a flight. He was just a freshman in college. His mom's a college professor. And I'm sitting there, it's evening flight, and I'm reading my Bible. And he says, "Is that the Bible?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Are you a Christian?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Yeah, I could never be a Christian." I said, "Why not?" He says, "Because I believe in evolution." And I said, "Of course you do." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Has anybody ever presented you with any other option except evolution? Have you ever been taught anything else? Has anybody talked about intelligent design?" Well, he goes, "No." I said, "Let me give you a list of books." And so I started writing all of Michael Behe's books on, Darwin's Black Box and the Edge of Evolution and Devolving Darwin, all these great books that he's written, basically saying, not as a Christian, but saying it as a secular scientist, the idea of evolution just doesn't work. It's got so many problems chemically, biologically, genetically. We know that it just doesn't work. It can't be the means by which the world came into existence or creatures came into existence. It just is impossible. And it's interesting how the man gets vilified for saying that. But at the end of the day, people simply repeat what they think is going to be the popular response. And we become people who are silent about a lot of things. When people say to me, "Well, I don't know how to argue or to answer those questions," well, let me suggest a novel approach. Start studying. You see, I think the most dangerous form of lying is when we make efforts to accommodate the culture by withholding or even compromising what we believe to be true.
I don't think we're doomed. We're terribly flawed, and we'll probably continue on being terribly flawed. I think, we seem to operate as a pendulum, and we go too far this way, and then we see that, and we correct it, and then we end up swinging too far that way. We're kind of always on this pendulum shift, and every now and then we get it just right.
We have multiple enemy craft in pursuit.
The question is, what's the goal? What is really valuable? What really gives us meaning in the end? Is it conquering Everest, or is it really experiencing love and in those relationships with our family and friends? Or can you have both?